To truly manifest $1 million within 30 days, one must go beyond casual visualization or intellectual belief. The gateway to transformation is emotional acceptance. It is not enough to merely see or think about the money. You must feel as if it already belongs to you. You must inwardly react to your imagined financial state as though it were as concrete as the chair you sit upon. That feeling, deep, warm, embodied, is the substance of the unseen world that shapes the visible. Many misunderstand the process of manifestation because they remain in a state of mental detachment. They say, "I want to be rich," or "I'm going to try this technique," but what they fail to grasp is that as long as the desire remains an external hope, separated by time and condition, it cannot enter into their world. The law is not moved by desire alone. It is moved by assumption, and assumption must include the feeling of reality, the emotional certainty that what you have imagined is true now. You are not attempting to convince the world or impress the universe with your desire. You are not bargaining with some external force. What you are doing is shifting your state of consciousness. In this new state, you do not long for the money. You possess it. You walk with it. You feel the freedom, the power, the relaxation, the gratitude. If you persist in that emotional atmosphere long enough, the outer world must reflect it. There is a distinct difference between pretending and assuming. Pretending is mechanical. You may repeat words or actions without genuine inner alignment. But assumption is creative. When you assume you are already a millionaire, your body language changes, your breath slows, your thoughts reorganize themselves. You begin to speak differently to others, not in arrogance or fantasy, but in quiet confidence. This is the emotional tone that summons the unseen currents of reality into motion. Most people do not manifest large sums of money because they carry the emotional imprint of lack. They have been conditioned for years to believe that wealth is distant, that money must be earned through suffering or manipulation, that only a select few are chosen to prosper. These emotional beliefs are not neutral. They are active forces that construct the world around them. You cannot manifest beyond the boundary of your emotional conviction. Therefore, before anything external changes, your emotional self-preimage must shift. Begin by identifying how it would feel if you already had $1 million. Not what you would buy, but how you would feel. Would you be more secure, more generous? Would you laugh more? Would you walk taller? Would you sleep more peacefully at night? These questions are not trivial. They are keys. The feeling must precede the fact. If you can enter into that feeling with sincerity, your state will begin to change. When you lie in bed at night, imagine looking at your bank statement with that 7-figure balance. Do not observe it from the outside as a distant goal. Enter the scene. Feel the smoothness of the paper or the glow of the screen. Hear your inner voice say, "It happened. It's real." Let that moment become as natural to you as brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. The more natural the assumption becomes, the sooner it will express itself. It is not about forcing belief. Belief grows by exposure. Just as a child learns to trust walking by repeated experience, so your subconscious mind learns to accept new wealth through emotional rehearsal. The more often you feel the reality of abundance, the more your inner world reshapes itself to accept it. The subconscious does not argue, it simply accepts what is impressed upon it with feeling. Repetition with feeling becomes law. This is not about escaping hardship or denying bills or pretending away circumstances. It is about placing your attention where it is most powerful, on the inner realm. For what you accept emotionally within, you will soon recognize externally. The world does not create wealth for you. It reveals the wealth you have already claimed in spirit. You must become emotionally loyal to the state of wealth. Loyalty means you do not entertain thoughts of doubt, jealousy, or scarcity. If they arise, you gently return to the feeling of already having. This is not repression, it is selection. You are not fighting thoughts, you are replacing them. Like a radio dial, you turn your attention to a higher frequency and remain there. The new frequency will carry a new experience. Emotional acceptance also affects behavior. You will notice that when you feel rich, you act with more grace. You treat others with more ease. You become less reactive to temporary appearances. You may find yourself inspired to read certain books, make specific calls, or invest in yourself more confidently. These are not the causes of your wealth. They are the expressions of your new state. The emotional state comes first. The actions follow effortlessly. To embody wealth, you must release the identity of the one who lacks. This can feel uncomfortable, as your old self-physique may resist, but do not let temporary discomfort discourage you. Transformation is always uncomfortable at first. That is the sign of movement. Keep choosing the new feeling, even if it feels unfamiliar. Soon it will feel more real than anything you've known before. You are not being arrogant by assuming wealth. You are being obedient to the law. You are acknowledging that your imagination is more real than facts, more powerful than history. As you continue to feel from your desired state, not just about it, you collapse the illusion of distance. The $1 million becomes not something out there, but something unfolding through you. Do not measure your success by outer signs. They will come. But do not wait for them to believe. Belief is the cause, not the result. Emotional acceptance is the secret engine. Nurture it daily. Let your heart be the home of your new reality, and watch as the world follows. If you desire to manifest $1 million in 30 days, it is not enough to simply desire money in vague terms. The law does not respond to wishful thinking. It responds to specificity, clarity, and inner conviction. The $1 million must be brought out of abstraction and formed into a concrete image, an imaginal act that implies the goal is already fulfilled. To define the exact scene is to give structure to the formless. It is how you instruct the subconscious mind to reorganize your world in alignment with your assumption. A scene is not just a visual, it is a moment in time experienced as if it were happening now. It must be short, vivid, and emotionally charged. It must feel natural and complete. The power of a scene lies not in its length or detail, but in its capacity to generate the feeling that the wish has already been realized. You are not creating fantasy. You are selecting a memory from the future. A future that already exists in potential, waiting for your attention to bring it forth. Imagine for a moment you've received a phone notification. You open it, and it's your banking app. The number displayed begins with the digit 1, followed by 6 zeros. You do not question it. You feel a wave of calm and confirmation. You breathe deeply. This is it. It happened. You sit back in your chair, not in disbelief, but in satisfaction. You may even smile gently, not out of shock, but out of familiarity, that one moment. Viewing your account, registering the number, accepting it, is a perfect imaginal scene. Another might choose something more interactive, a conversation over dinner with a close friend who says, "I can't believe you really did it. 1 million in just 30 days. And you reply, "I told you I already had it. I never doubted it." Then you raise your glass in toast. Feel the coldness of the glass, the ambience of the restaurant, the sound of subtle music in the background. These are not extras. They are anchors. The more real the scene feels, the more real it becomes. The scene must be one that naturally follows the fulfillment of the desire. Do not imagine the process, imagine the result. You do not need to visualize the check being written or the business deal being signed. Skip the how. Focus only on the scene that would logically happen after the money is already yours. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between imagination and physical reality. It only accepts what is impressed upon it with feeling, and feeling comes from immersion in a believable scene. There is immense creative power in selecting one scene and returning to it night after night. Repetition is the language of the subconscious. Just as a musician practices one phrase to perfection, so the manifester rehearses one imaginal act until it becomes second nature. At first, the scene may feel artificial, even forced, but with persistence, it becomes familiar. And once familiar, it becomes assumed. That assumption is the seed of manifestation. This scene must be entered from the first-person point of view. Do not see yourself as an observer or as if watching a film. Be in the scene. See through your own eyes. Feel with your own skin. Hear through your own ears. You are not constructing a performance. You are inhabiting a parallel reality. The self who already has the $1 million is not an idea. It is a real identity you can step into at will. That identity carries with it a world, and that world becomes visible the moment you claim it from within. There are those who complicate this work by trying to imagine too much. They design complex scripts or try to picture every minute detail. That is unnecessary. The scene should be brief, a few seconds at most. What matters is that it captures the essence of fulfillment. Just as a memory can be triggered by a single scent or sound, so your imagined scene must be potent in meaning, not cluttered with irrelevant. Simplicity creates focus, and focus creates depth. It is the depth of feeling that generates the change. Once you have chosen your scene, do not change it. Stay with it. Do not wonder whether another might be better. This indecision weakens the impression. Faith is single-minded. If you believe you are already rich, you do not audition new scenarios. You accept the one that already feels real. In time, the repetition of this one scene will rewrite your inner world. And once the inner world is rewritten, the outer world conforms. You must also anchor your scene in a sense of nowness. Time in the imagination does not operate by the rules of clocks or calendars. The moment you imagine a thing as happening now, it becomes real to the subconscious. Future tense weakens the manifestation. Saying, "I will have $1 million," keeps it always ahead of you. But entering a scene where it already exists brings it into the present. And what is accepted in the present inevitably becomes expressed in time. This process requires discipline, but not effort. You do not force the scene, you allow it. Each night, before sleep, relax completely. Let the body grow still. Then gently, like a dream you are slipping into, enter your scene. Do not rush, do not judge. Feel it as real. If you fall asleep in the act, you have done well. Sleep is the gateway to the subconscious, and whatever image you carry into it will be impressed more deeply. You are not performing magic. You are engaging a principle. What you assume as true becomes true. The scene is the vehicle of assumption. It is not fantasy. It is fact in the invisible. Your work is not to create. Your work is to select. The $1 million already exists in imagination. Choose it, live from it, dwell in the afterglow of its fulfillment. If you do this faithfully, the outer world must obey. It cannot help but mirror the inner image you consistently hold. The key to it all is immersion. Be in the scene. Feel it. Accept it. Do not hope for it. Live in it. Make it your dwelling place, and soon the world will knock on your door with evidence of what you've dared to assume. Persistence is the secret thread that binds the invisible to the visible. To assume the feeling of your desire fulfilled is not a single act. It is a state you remain loyal to. Many attempt this inner work once or twice and then abandon it when the outer world does not immediately change. But the law does not respond to momentary declarations. It responds to sustained inner conviction. To persist means to hold the image, the feeling, and the assumption, even in the face of appearances that contradict it. When you choose to assume that you already possess $1 million, you are taking a new position in consciousness. That position must be occupied not occasionally, but constantly. You must visit it so often that it becomes more familiar to you than your current facts. Persistence turns an idea into identity. When the identity is fully formed within, the world has no choice but to reflect it. There is a natural temptation to measure your inner assumption against outer results. You imagine yourself rich, yet the bank balance shows otherwise. You assume abundance, yet bills continue to arrive. You walk in confidence, yet no confirmation appears. This is the great test. Will you persist in your inner world, or will you abandon it to obey the testimony of your senses? The senses are slow. They echo the past. The imagination is quick. It signals the future. The one who wins is the one who remains faithful to the imagined end. Persistence is not strain. It is not willpower in the conventional sense. You are not forcing the external world to yield. You are simply refusing to exit your chosen reality. Every time a contrary thought arises, you acknowledge it without fear and return to your assumption. This return is an act of power. It is the discipline of the creative mind. You are not reacting to what is. You are shaping what will be. Some will say this is unrealistic, but reality as most define it is nothing more than a frozen picture of a former state of consciousness. If you continue to respond to the picture, you remain trapped in the same cycle. But if you withdraw attention from what is and place it upon what ought to be, as though it already is, then you break the cycle. You step into a new frame. That frame, held long enough, becomes your new fact. Night is the great ally of persistence. As you prepare for sleep, the mind softens and opens. In this twilight state, return to your chosen scene. Feel it with new depth. Re-enter it as if you had never left. Let it be the bed you rest in, the atmosphere you breathe. If you can fall asleep while assuming the wish fulfilled, then that state will sink into the subconscious and begin its work unimpeded through the night. Do not seek signs. Do not hunger for proof. The moment you crave evidence, you have stepped out of faith. The seed does not sprout the moment it is buried. It remains hidden, drawing life from the soil. The assumption you persist in is that seed. Water it not with desperation, but with quiet confidence. Feed it not with doubt, but with gratitude. The act of returning day after day to the feeling of already having. This is the true form of belief. You may feel resistance at first. This is natural. The old self will not die quietly. It will bring memories, emotions, and logic to convince you that nothing is changing. But change begins invisibly, like a shift in the wind before the storm arrives. The internal world shifts first. If you can persist beyond the noise of the old identity, the new state will begin to crystallize. Persistence builds familiarity. The more often you assume yourself to be a millionaire, the more normal that state becomes. And when something feels normal, the subconscious accepts it. This is why repetition is not repetition in vain. It is re-identification. You are telling the deeper mind, this is who I am now. Eventually the body, the voice, the thoughts, the behavior, all will conform. Avoid inconsistency. The one who declares wealth in the morning and mourns lack by night is a double-minded man. You must learn to remain in your chosen state regardless of what the outer world declares. This does not mean you ignore life. It means you interpret life from the new state. If a bill arrives, you do not see it as proof of poverty. You see it as a temporary echo of the old man, now fading away. You handle it with the composure of one who knows something greater is unfolding beneath the surface. Persistence is also strengthened by thanksgiving. Give thanks for what you have imagined as though you have already received it. Gratitude confirms that the gift is real. When you say thank you for the wealth that has not yet appeared to the senses, you signal to the subconscious that it is already yours. This attitude not only reinforces the assumption, but magnetizes the outer world to reflect it. Speak from the state, not about it. Let your inner conversations be those of one who already possesses the million. Let your mental tone be calm, generous, confident, and unhurried. Do not rehearse doubts. Do not discuss the problem. Discuss only the outcome. And if no one else will hear you, speak within. Your inner speech is the script your life will follow. When faced with delay or challenge, remind yourself the state is already mine. That reminder, spoken with feeling, is your compass. It guides you back to the place of power. Even if the body feels doubt or the world seems unchanged, the persistent one knows better. They stay loyal to the vision. That loyalty is what breaks down barriers and opens doors no man can shut. All manifestation is persistence in disguise. What appears to arrive suddenly was long held in consciousness. The day the money arrives will feel inevitable, not surprising. It will feel like remembering something, not discovering it. That is the mark of true assumption when the manifestation feels like homecoming. Stay within. Stay steady. To manifest $1 million in 30 days, you must come to terms with a subtle but essential truth. The unseen process is more powerful than the seen. The moment you assume that the money is yours, the work begins, but not in the outer world. The movement starts in the unseen, the invisible realm of mind and spirit, where the blueprint is formed before the structure can rise. And yet, this is where most falter. They plant the seed of their assumption, only to dig it up moments later to see if it's growing. But the law of life does not work on impulse. It works on unwavering trust in what has not yet appeared. You must stop checking. You must stop measuring your inner progress by outer evidence. The very act of checking implies doubt. It says to the subconscious, I'm not sure it's working. And the subconscious, being impartial, responds to that uncertainty with more of the same. If you persist in looking for signs, in waiting for proof, you delay the arrival of your desire. The desire was already sent the moment you assumed it to be true. There is nothing more to be done but to trust and allow. Think of the farmer who plants a seed. He does not return every hour to inspect the soil. He waters it, protects it, and trusts the process. He knows that growth happens out of sight. In the same way, once you have assumed yourself to be wealthy, once you have seen the $1 million in your imagination, felt it as yours, and accepted it as a present reality, you must step back from the demand for signs. Let the seed do its work. The outer world moves slowly. It is sluggish compared to the speed of thought. You may change your inner state in an instant, but the outer reflection takes time to reshape itself. During this gestation period, the temptation to interfere is great. You may feel the urge to force things to happen, to talk to the right person, to check your account 10 times a day. But these acts often carry the hidden message that you don't yet believe it is done. And this disbelief neutralizes your creative act. The unseen process is intelligent. It will orchestrate the necessary circumstances, encounters, and events to fulfill your assumption. But this orchestration often happens beyond your awareness. You may not see the pieces coming together. It may seem as if nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, life is rearranging itself to accommodate the truth you have accepted within. In this quiet interval, your responsibility is not action but conviction. The only thing you must do is remain in the end state, mentally, emotionally, and imaginatively. The work is not to make it happen. The work is to not disturb it. Rest in the knowing. The same way you do not question whether the sun will rise, you must reach a point where the fulfillment of your desire is no longer a question. It is a certainty. And this certainty, even in the absence of physical proof, becomes your atmosphere. Your assumption must become your dwelling place, not a temporary escape. The more time you spend there, the more you saturate yourself with the feeling of it. Soon it becomes more familiar than your old condition, and what is familiar becomes dominant. The outer world is always an echo of the inner atmosphere you carry most consistently. Do not pollute that atmosphere with doubt disguised as curiosity. Is it working? is a question asked only by those who are still waiting. You are not waiting, you are remembering. You may be tempted to compare. Others may seem to receive faster results. You may hear stories of overnight wealth and wonder, why not me? But comparison is a distraction. Each manifestation has its own path, and that path is determined by your consciousness. Stay loyal to your own process. The more you honor your timeline, the quicker it aligns. Time is not your enemy, it is your servant. The moment you feel no urgency, time collapses into now. To stop checking is to step into mastery. It is to declare, I no longer need proof, for I already possess. This declaration is not spoken aloud, but lived inwardly. It is seen in the calmness of your mind, in the steadiness of your mood, in the certainty with which you carry yourself through the day. You no longer talk about becoming rich. You walk as one who already is. Even your actions begin to change, not because you are trying to force outcomes, but because the inner state gives birth to new impulses. You may feel inspired to invest, to learn, to speak differently. These are not random. They are natural consequences of your assumption. Trust them, but do not treat them as causes. Treat them as symptoms of what has already happened within. The world cannot help but respond to the inner command, but it responds in its own rhythm. What you have imagined in stillness will burst forth when the time is ripe. Just as fruit ripens in silence, so will your assumption bear fruit without noise or announcement. One day you will open your eyes and see that what you once assumed in imagination now surrounds you in form. If you can reach the point where you no longer think about the $1 million, no longer question its coming, no longer need its appearance to validate your belief, then you have truly assumed it. And at that moment you are free. You are no longer the seeker of wealth, you are its embodiment. And the world must mirror back the version of you that you have persistently and silently upheld. When you declare that you have already received what you desire, when you boldly assume that the $1 million is yours now, something begins to move in the unseen. Not because you made a plan, not because you calculated a strategy, but because your assumption repositions you on the great map of life. The inner shift causes outer bridges to emerge. These bridges are not constructed by effort or intellect. They are constructed by the law. And this law does not need your help. What it requires is your surrender. The greatest obstacle to manifestation is not a lack of faith in the desire. It is an obsession with how it will come. The moment you begin to wonder how the $1 million will arrive, you leave the state of the wish fulfilled. You are no longer dwelling in the end. You are now trapped in the middle. The middle is uncertainty, calculation, doubt, and fear. It's the domain of reason, logic, and control. But imagination does not operate through the middle. It creates from the end, and once the end is felt as real, the means, the invisible pathway to that end, constructs itself without your conscious assistance. The truth is this: you cannot know how. The conscious mind is too limited. It only knows what it has seen, heard, or experienced. The $1 million may come through a path you have never imagined, a chance meeting, a forgotten idea, a sudden opportunity, a redirection disguised as rejection. But if you are fixated on how it must come, you block the door to how it could come. The moment you release the how, you open yourself to the full power of the law. Life has a way of unfolding perfectly for the one who trusts. Events may appear disconnected at first, even contradictory, but when viewed from the higher state of fulfillment, each step is revealed as part of the bridge of incidents. This bridge cannot be predicted, nor should it be. Your job is not to manage the bridge. Your job is to remain in the assumption that the end is done. From that place, the bridge unfolds step by step beneath your feet. Let us say you assume tonight that the $1 million is already yours. You go to sleep with the feeling of freedom, wealth, and abundance. You do not visualize the check arriving or the deal being signed. You imagine what implies it is already finished. Perhaps you see yourself waking up, stretching in your luxury suite, or thanking a friend for their congratulations. That's all. You saturate yourself with that end feeling, and now the work is done. You have moved. The inner relocation has occurred, and because the inner self has shifted, the outer world must reflect the new position. Now comes the challenge. A phone call arrives, a business offer collapses, an unexpected bill is delivered. If you are untrained, you panic. You begin to question the assumption. You ask, why would this happen if I am truly rich? But this is where the unseen intelligence is doing its work. What looks like a setback is often a setup. The bridge is forming. One incident leads to another. A delay leads to a meeting. Cancellation leads to a conversation. A closed door leads to a better one. If you interfere, if you try to force or fix or figure it out, you risk breaking the bridge before it completes. To walk in faith is not to wait passively. It is to live as if you know. And when you know something, you do not micromanage it. When you plant a seed, you do not question whether the soil knows how to do its job. You water it. You trust it. You wait. Likewise, once you plant the seed of your assumption, once you have imagined yourself in possession of the $1 million, your only work is to nurture that inner atmosphere. Keep the soil of your mind free from weeds of doubt and fear. Let the unseen do the rest. Some may ask, but what if I miss the opportunity? What if I don't recognize the bridge? This question comes from a misunderstanding. You cannot miss what is meant for you when you live from the end. The bridge is drawn to you. You will be compelled to move, to speak, to act in ways you cannot now predict. These impulses are not from the surface mind. They are from the deeper self that has already arrived. What feels like intuition is often the echo of your future self reaching back to guide you. This guidance may not come with flashing lights or dramatic signs. It may be subtle, a nudge, a persistent thought, a sudden enthusiasm. Follow it, not because it is part of a plan, but because it flows naturally from your state. When you live from wealth, you begin to behave as one who is already wealthy. These actions are not forced. They are effortless. And they are the very steps that lead to the fulfillment of the assumption. The bridge of incidents is not always comfortable. It may include unexpected turns, but every turn is perfect. Every step is designed to bring the invisible into view. Trust the bridge. Walk it with confidence, even if you do not see the full path. One step at a time is enough. Just as headlights show only a few meters ahead, yet can take you across the country, your assumption illuminates just enough for you to proceed. The rest appears as you move. There will be moments when nothing seems to be happening. This stillness is not stagnation, it is alignment. Like the pause between heartbeats, it is necessary. Do not confuse stillness with absence. The law is always at work. Your job is to continue dwelling in the end. Let the bridge rise beneath your feet. Without needing to know what form it will take, drop the how. You were never meant to carry it. Carry the end instead. Live in the joy, the peace, the confidence that it is already done. This knowing draws all things to you, not by force, but by law. And when the bridge is complete, you will look back and marvel at its perfection. To assume the feeling of being a millionaire is to step into a new state of consciousness, but that state must be maintained and protected. The moment you claim a new identity in imagination, your inner speech must begin to align with that claim. And herein lies a challenge that few notice, but many stumble over. The contradiction between what is assumed in imagination and what is spoken in thought or word during the day. The law does not work when your lips declare one thing while your thoughts rehearse another. The inner conversation is the true prayer. It is the real decree that shapes the outer world. You cannot declare wealth in your nightly imagination and then walk through the day criticizing, doubting, and complaining about lack. This is the greatest sabotage to your manifestation. The subconscious mind does not respond to fleeting moments of visualization. It responds to the atmosphere you live in. And that atmosphere is determined by your dominant thoughts and emotional reactions throughout the day. Every idle word, every repeated thought, every internal dialogue is a seed planted in the fertile soil of consciousness. Guard your inner speech as you would guard a precious treasure. Ask yourself, what am I saying to myself about money when I am alone? What do I think when I see someone living lavishly? Do I feel envy or admiration? Do I resent their abundance or celebrate it? Your reaction to wealth in others is a mirror of how you truly feel about having it yourself. You cannot assume wealth and simultaneously believe that those who possess it are corrupt, greedy, or undeserving. The law will not deliver to you what you secretly despise. Inner contradiction weakens the force of assumption. If your mental conversations dwell on scarcity, worry, or disbelief, then regardless of your brief imaginative acts, the deeper current of your consciousness flows in opposition to your desire. You must bring all aspects of your thought life into harmony with the state you wish to express. This means that your conversations, both within and without, must be consistent with your end. Speak yourself as one who is already rich. Let your inner tone be relaxed, confident, and expectant. When you imagine scenarios throughout the day, and you always do, imagine them from the perspective of someone who has already received the wealth. If someone asks you for help, respond in imagination as one who has resources to give. If you think about your future, envision it from the mountaintop, not the valley. Every mental rehearsal is either reinforcing your assumption or undoing it. There is no neutrality in consciousness. Every thought is a builder or a breaker. The one who truly understands this becomes very selective with their inner words. They no longer indulge in worry or negative speculation. They do not entertain the worst-case scenario. Not because they are naive, but because they understand the law. They know that what they consistently imagine, especially with feeling, must take form. They discipline the mind to speak from the end, not about the problem. It is not enough to silence outer complaints. You must also cleanse the inner monologue. Some believe they can fool the law by acting positive outwardly, while secretly nurturing thoughts of lack and limitation. But the law is not impressed by surface behavior. It operates by vibration. The emotional tone of your self-talk reveals the truth of your assumption. Are you constantly asking, when will it come? Or, what if it doesn't work? Then you are not in the state. You are looking at it from a distance. You must enter the state fully, speak from it, think from it, react from it. This does not mean you deny the appearance of circumstances. It means you refuse to make them your point of reference. You look at the facts of life and say, that may be so now, but it is not the truth of who I am. You do not fight the facts, you transcend them by the steady affirmation of your new reality. The contradiction begins to dissolve as you stop reinforcing the old man with repetitive mental chatter. Every time you notice yourself contradicting your assumption, gently but firmly return to the truth of your new identity. Do not scold yourself. That only deepens the old state. Instead, revise the thought. If you catch yourself thinking, I can't afford this, immediately replace it with, everything I desire flows to me in perfect time. Say it, feel it, dwell in it, make that the new habit. Eventually your reactions change. And once your reactions change, your world must follow. Self-talk is not merely personal therapy. It is the blueprint of creation. What you whisper to yourself at the quietest hour is written into the fabric of your future. Let those whispers be rich. Let them be bold. Let them be saturated with faith. You are not rehearsing fantasy. You are constructing reality from the inside out. The inner dialogue must become a sanctuary, a place where you speak only from victory, where every word reflects the world you have chosen to occupy. When doubt arises, and it will, do not entertain it. Replace it, overwrite it with conviction. The law does not care what caused the doubt. It only responds to what you persist in assuming. In time, this disciplined inner speech becomes natural. You begin to think like the wealthy man, the abundant woman, the prosperous self. It no longer requires effort, it becomes identity, and identity always expresses itself. The new self cannot help but be mirrored in new conditions. The $1,000,000 is not the cause of this transformation, it is the result. The true cause is the sustained mental atmosphere, the unbroken inner dialogue that agrees only with the end. You need not be perfect, but you must be consistent. If you fall into contradiction, revise. If you speak against your desire, correct course. If you find yourself doubting, pause and assume again. This practice is not punishment, it is purification. You are refining your consciousness into a vessel worthy of your assumption. And once that refinement is complete, what you assumed will stand before you. When a man inwardly assumes he is wealthy, it is impossible for him to continue acting as though he were poor. Every assumption, when held with emotional conviction, expresses itself through behavior, attitude, and subtle choices. You do not pretend to be rich, you begin to embody what it feels like to be rich. The bridge between inner assumption and outer manifestation is often misunderstood. Many think they must act externally to produce results, but the truth is quite the opposite. Action is not the cause, it is the expression of the state. When the inner shift occurs, outer behavior changes naturally and without force. The man who has assumed his $1,000,000 does not walk as he once did. His posture changes, not in arrogance, but in ease. His tone softens. His breathing slows. His words become deliberate and grounded. This is not performance, this is identity expressing itself. The outer world is not changed by frantic action. It is changed by inward transformation. You act not to make the assumption come true, but because the assumption is already true within you. To act in harmony with your new state is to carry yourself through daily life in accordance with your desired end. But this does not mean you must buy what you cannot afford or take reckless financial risks. It means you act from the consciousness of wealth. You respond to problems from a place of abundance. You handle money with care and appreciation. You give freely when inspired, not from guilt, but from confidence in your provision. You no longer carry the atmosphere of worry, but the presence of sufficiency. The body is an instrument, and it cannot help but play the tune of the dominant assumption. If you have truly assumed wealth, you no longer chase it. You no longer speak of lack. You no longer hesitate out of fear of insufficiency. Your movements, your decisions, your tone all radiate the feeling of one who has already received. This is not imagination now. It is the materialization. One of the greatest tests of faith is the impulse to act prematurely out of fear or doubt. The untrained mind thinks, what can I do to make this happen faster? But the one who lives in the end asks, how would I act now that it's done? The distinction is subtle but profound. One acts from lack, the other from fulfillment. You are not to hustle for the million. You are to live in such a way that the million feels natural, inevitable, and already present in substance, if not yet in sight. This also includes how you handle your present circumstances. When you receive a bill, do you panic or do you bless it, knowing that you dwell in a state where all is already paid for? When you encounter someone more successful, do you shrink or compare? Or do you celebrate their wealth as evidence that abundance is a living reality available to you? These small responses, often dismissed, are powerful indicators of the state you actually occupy. They show whether you are acting in harmony with wealth or rehearsing the habits of poverty. Behavior is a mirror. It reflects what you have accepted as true. But it is not about pretending or forcing appearances. It is about allowing your assumed identity to color your entire way of being. You do not need to dress extravagantly or flaunt imagined riches. You simply carry yourself with quiet confidence. You invest in your well-being. You speak of possibilities, not problems. You trust the unfolding of events. You walk with a rhythm that says, I am already the person I have chosen to be. Even your decisions begin to change. You no longer take action from desperation. You pause, reflect, and choose with purpose. You no longer feel rushed because the one who has received does not live in haste. You no longer feel threatened by competition because the one who has abundance knows there is more than enough. These shifts are not dramatic, they are subtle and consistent, but they are powerful, and the world feels them long before the physical evidence arrives. There is a natural intelligence within the state of wealth. When you step into it inwardly, you are inspired to take action, not because you are chasing, but because you are aligned. The ideas that come to you, the connections you make, the conversations you are drawn into, all arise from your new state. You begin to act, not to attract the million, but because you are already in possession of the consciousness that produces it. The action is no longer mechanical, it is magnetic. You may find yourself drawn to read different material, to invest in yourself, to speak differently, to walk into rooms you previously avoided. Follow that guidance. These movements are not random. They are the natural outflow of the new self-possession. Just as the old self had habits of fear and withdrawal, the new self expresses itself through confidence and creative movement. Let that movement happen organically. Do not imitate others. Do not adopt false personas. Simply ask, what would I do now, knowing that I have already received? Even in solitude, your behavior matters. How you speak to yourself, how you carry yourself when no one is watching. These are the truest expressions of your state. Act as one who has nothing to prove, nothing to fear, and everything to appreciate. This does not mean you escape discipline or structure. In fact, it means you embrace them more fully, because the one who is already wealthy honors time, respects energy, and values peace. To act in harmony with your new state is to live as though the imagined world is already the real one. You do not act to become rich, you act because you are rich. And that distinction, subtle as it may seem, is the entire foundation of creation. You do not beg for what you already possess. You move in gratitude. You decide with clarity. You walk in assurance. These are not performances. They are evidence that the new man has been born. Once the state has been assumed, once the end is clearly accepted as now, there comes a moment where the greatest power is exercised through rest. Not rest as in idleness or laziness, but the kind of inner peace that comes only from deep conviction. To detach with faith is to live in such profound certainty that you no longer chase, no longer seek, no longer question. The $1 million, though not yet seen by the eyes, is held in the hand of the soul. But because you know it is yours, you no longer need to look for it. Detachment is not disinterest. It is not emotional apathy. It is not giving up on the desire. It is, in fact, the purest expression of belief. To be detached is to release the compulsion to check, to analyze, to interfere. It is to walk in the confidence that what you assumed in imagination must unfold, and that time and space are simply the canvas upon which your inner reality is being painted. You do not pull at the thread. You do not shake the tree. You wait with a calm heart and a clear mind. The average person becomes entangled in the need to control the process. They assume the desire and then immediately begin to wrestle with thoughts of when, how, and through whom. They search for signs, refresh their accounts, speak about their assumptions not with confidence but with nervous hope. All of this betrays a hidden belief that what was imagined may not come. And so the outer world reflects that insecurity. The mirror does not show what you want. It shows what you are. Faith requires surrender. Not surrender of the desire, but surrender of the demand. You are no longer begging life to prove your assumption. You are calmly allowing life to yield to it. This is not passivity. It is power. True power is silent. It does not force. It does not announce. It simply is. The one who detaches in faith does not need to affirm 100 times a day. They do not need to tell others about their vision. Their stillness speaks louder than words. Imagine placing an order at a fine restaurant. You speak your desire once and you expect it to come. You do not go into the kitchen. You do not call the chef. You relax. You trust that what you've asked for is being prepared behind the scenes. That trust allows you to enjoy the moment. You are not faking joy. You are free from concern. This is the detachment that follows real assumption. It is not a strategy. It is a natural effect of knowing. When you assume wealth, the correct emotional posture is one of peace. You are no longer frantic. You are not constantly revising the image out of fear that it wasn't enough. You are not overthinking. You are simply being. And in being, you allow the law to operate without resistance. Interference delays results. Obsession reveals unbelief. But the one who is relaxed in mind and spirit has already moved beyond the question of whether it will happen. For them, it has already happened. This calm assurance begins to affect every area of your life. You begin to walk slower, speak more intentionally, and react less. The old triggers lose their power because you no longer live in the atmosphere of lack. You begin to recognize that the silence between assumption and manifestation is not empty. It is sacred. It is the womb of creation, and it must not be disturbed with fear. Detachment also brings freedom from comparison. You are no longer concerned with how quickly others are manifesting how much they have or what methods they're using. You stop looking sideways. Your eyes are fixed inward, where the real work is done. You know that what is yours cannot be taken, delayed, or stolen, and so you rejoice in others' success, knowing that their abundance affirms the reality of your own. You begin to trust your impulses more, not because you are trying to manipulate outcomes, but because you are tuned into the rhythm of your state. Ideas come and go like clouds, and you choose the ones that feel light and effortless. You are not scrambling for opportunities. You are flowing with them. This ease is not laziness. It is alignment. It is what happens when your inner world and outer world begin to synchronize. The act of detachment is often misunderstood as a step to be added after manifestation work, as if it were a final piece to glue everything together. But detachment is not a technique. It is the fruit of true belief. You cannot fake it. You cannot force it. It must rise naturally from the seed of assumption. If the seed is healthy and planted deeply, detachment blooms like a flower. You find yourself smiling for no reason, trusting without evidence, resting without fear. In this place of detachment, you no longer resist appearances. If something undesirable shows up, you do not panic. You do not say, "This means my assumption failed." Instead, you say, "This too will pass." It is just the echo of the old state. Your awareness has shifted. You are no longer reacting to the shadows. You are dwelling in the light of what already is. This is the highest form of discipline, not in action, but in attention. As the days pass, you will begin to feel the line between imagination and reality blur. You will forget what was real and what was imagined. This is the moment when the manifestation is nearest, not because you tried harder, but because you let go. You allowed the seed to die and resurrect as form. What was once held in silence now speaks through substance. What was once a thought becomes an experience. This is the art of allowing. It is the mature state of consciousness, and it belongs to the one who understands that faith is not noise, it is rest. The $1 million comes not to the one who needs it, but to the one who already holds it within and no longer watches the clock. What you have just heard is not theory, it is law. It is not mysticism, nor is it mere positive thinking. It is the spiritual science of creation, a sacred order in which imagination leads, assumption governs, and consciousness becomes cause. The outer world, with all its noise and momentum, is only ever a mirror. It reflects not what you desire, not what you hope for, not what you beg or plead for. It reflects what you have accepted as true within yourself. To manifest $1 million in 30 days is not a challenge for the law. It is only a challenge for belief. It is not the number that matters. It is not the time frame. It is the one assuming that matters. For what is $1,000,000 to the infinite mind within you? It is no more difficult to manifest than a penny. The only difference lies in your scale of belief. And belief is not formed by willpower, it is formed by assumption. It is formed when you dare to say, "This is already mine," and hold to that statement with such intensity, such faith, such stillness, that nothing in the world can move you from it. Everything begins with emotional acceptance, the feeling that what you have imagined is already real must become your atmosphere. It must live in your breath, your walk, your inner tone. You cannot long for the million. You must be it. You must feel the freedom it gives, the generosity it flows with, the confidence it awakens. That feeling is your claim. That emotion is your receipt. You do not chase it. You do not wait for it. You live in it. But feeling alone must be shaped by form. And so you are instructed to define the exact scene that would follow the fulfillment of your desire. Not many scenes. One. A simple, clear, vivid moment that implies without question that the million is already yours. A phone notification, a conversation, a bank statement, a toast. Whatever scene you choose, enter it in first person, experience it with full sensory detail, and repeat it. Not as a task, but as a dwelling place. The mind repeats what it accepts. Let your scene become home. Then comes the great task of persistence. You do not visit your scene once and expect transformation. You remain loyal to it, no matter what the outer world reveals. You feel it before sleep. You revisit it when doubt creeps in. You treat it as reality because it is. The senses may scream otherwise, the facts may appear fixed, but the one who persists in assumption, who remains faithful to the unseen, eventually sees the invisible made visible. In this loyalty, you must release your grip on evidence. You must stop checking, stop waiting, stop scanning the world for proof. The seed has already been planted. It will grow. Your only task is not to dig it up with impatience. Your only task is to remain still in knowing, to trust the unseen rhythm, to allow the roots to form before the leaves appear. And while you trust, you must also release the how. You must drop the weight of planning and strategizing. The how is not yours to carry. The how is the work of the law. Your job is the end. Stay there. The bridge of incidents will unfold. It may look messy. It may seem indirect. But every step will lead you forward. You may not recognize the path until you've walked it. So walk it with peace. To walk it with peace means you guard your inner conversations. You do not say you are rich at night and worry in the morning. You do not affirm abundance and then entertain fear. Your inner speech is the architect of your future. Make it clean, make it strong, make it consistent with your new identity. If the mind wanders, bring it back, not with force, but with authority. Speak from the place you have claimed. When this inner speech becomes second nature, your actions begin to change. You no longer act to get something, you act from what you already are. Your gestures, your decisions, your generosity, they all express your state. This is not pretending, it is being. You invest in yourselves because you are valuable. You walk into rooms with composure because you belong there. You stop proving, you start embodying. And finally, you rest. You let go of obsession. You release urgency. You surrender, not in defeat, but in assurance. You no longer need the $1 million to complete you. You are already whole. You are already rich within. And this richness, this inner wealth, this identity that you have constructed in silence, begins to solidify into form. It draws to you the people, the circumstances, the opportunities that match its vibration, not by effort, not by manipulation, but by natural law. You will know it is done when you stop needing to see it, When you can go a day, a week, even a month without asking where it is, because you already feel it within. And when it arrives, it will not surprise you. It will feel normal. It will feel like something you knew was inevitable, because it was. You imagined it, you accepted it, you assumed it, and the world had no choice but to follow. So now, go within, select your end, assume it boldly, dwell in it faithfully, let your words speak from it, let your actions flow from it, and rest in the quiet knowing that what you have already received in imagination will soon become the world in which you walk. The law cannot fail. It can only reflect. Choose wisely what you show it.